Welcome back to the After Actions Podcast. This is episode number 10. And today we have a nice topic for you. We're talking about the transition from a special duty assignment, something like recruiter or drill instructor, to going back to the fleet. A lot of young Marines go out to recruiting duty or drill instructor duty. By the time they come back to the fleet, they've been out there on that duty for about 3 years. And now they're expected to come back to the fleet and lead these Marines as a chief. And they may have not done that before. So we're about to deep dive into the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, and how to be successful when you come back to the fleet from your SDA. Today, I brought with me somebody you may have heard of before. He's a prior drill instructor. He goes by the name of Battle Buddy Banter on all social media platforms. I got Josh. Josh, welcome back to the After Actions Podcast once again. What do you got for the people on this topic, man?
You already know who I am. I did my time 2020 to 2023. I did 7 cycles. I was a young sergeant, came out as a staff sergeant, thankfully. I'm in the service still, as you can see. Active duty service member, have been in for 10 years. This year marks my 11th year in the United States Marine Corps.
Respect.
And we'll see what the future may hold for me.
But what we're here to talk about first and foremost is the transition from being a recruiter or a drill instructor in the United States Marine Corps and coming back to the fleet after you've been out of your job, your MOS, for 3 years, 36 months. And when you're coming back, you're at a senior rank or you're at a senior amount of experience. And now you're just expected to lead these Marines. These Marines might know more about their job than you know about the job. How do you adapt? How do you handle those situations? I've been through that. Josh has been through that. Josh, I want to hear some of your experiences and see, how did you adapt to coming back to the fleet? Was it hard? Were you laying down the law, quoting Marine Corps orders because you're a drill instructor? How did it go for you, bro?
Oh, it was rough. It was extremely rough. The transition from the SDA, being a drill instructor, you have to think about how many years you get told you suck, or you're not screaming. This recruit don't respect you. You lost the discipline of the platoon. It was because of you. Right?
Yes.
As a Bobby or a brand new drone instructor, and then you come up, and you still get told the same thing. So it was rough when I first got my platoon, and on top of that, relearning my MOS.
Yes.
When I first got my platoon, I was left and right, knife hand, like, hey, you didn't give me the proper greeting, or you didn't show up on time, like you show up 1 minute late, but you grow away from that. You mature more after you. I honestly, when I got pulled aside, and it was one of my mass sergeants, he got out already, but one of my mass sergeants just pulled me aside and said, "Hey, these Marines don't feel like you are approachable," and I mean, I'm here, wait, what do you mean by that? I'm not approachable. I'm the nicest guy you can ever think about, when it comes to this, my job.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you always talk about work and you're always trying to push the mission. Have you thought about asking them what's their favorite song, or what genre do they listen to, or what's their favorite food, or what's their favorite hobby? And I looked both ways and I said, no, Master, I don't. I only know what I've been taught for 3 years.
Right.
I've been taught, hey, times. I've been taught, hey, discipline, all of this shit on top of my head, right? So it was rough. I think it took me about maybe 6 to 7 months to deviate away from that, and I'm still kind of a little bit strict, a little bit stern on that aspect. I still abide by Marine Corps standards, show up on time, get a haircut.
Yep.
But I definitely feel like I'm more compassionate, and I'm willing to listen and empathize with the Marines whenever they have problems. What about you?
I think that's a great point that you mentioned, and that's empathy. We all, maybe not all of us, but we all should know our leadership traits and our leadership principles. And one thing that I realized when I came back to the fleet is that empathy is not one of them. It's not. And it's something that, in my opinion, maybe should be incorporated, because we're not in the same Marine Corps that we were in maybe when we joined, maybe years before we joined. We have our customs, we have our courtesies, and a lot of those things are never going to change, right? But social media wasn't a thing, when I came in. I mean, it was a little bit of a thing when I came in, but it wasn't like it is today. People come up in different ways, different atmospheres, different surroundings. And one of the things that I had to learn was that everybody was not like Sergeant Jones or Staff Sergeant Jones. Just because I know I would handle a situation this way, maybe one of my Marines just could not. And I had to learn that. It doesn't mean that I have a bad apple. It means I took a bad bite of the apple. That's kind of the way that I look at it. But what I will say about my experience about going from recruiting duty to the fleet is that I was lucky in the sense that before I ever even left for recruiting duty, I had this thing in my head, because I have, being admin, I had worked at the IPAC where I checked in a lot of Marines, and a lot of them, because I worked in South Carolina at the IPAC, were drill instructors. Some of them were recruiters. And when I hear, oh man, this person's coming from the drill field, the first thing that I think is, this person's gonna be a fucking asshole. But I actually learned the opposite. These people, these Marines, they were tired of being the asshole 24/7, being strict 24/7. They were the ones who were willing to hear. Don't get me wrong. Hey, they will check you. But they were also the ones that they're just ready to have a conversation. They were oftentimes ready to have an understanding about you, the Marine, because they've dealt with recruits for so long. Whereas from my experience anyways, the recruiters that I ran into, they were the assholes. The recruiters were the assholes is because they were forced to have this smile on their face 24/7. And by the time they come back to the fleet, they're all smiled out. They don't want to smile anymore. They don't want to sit here and ask you about your day. How about you give me the proper greeting of the day? That's what they're thinking. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about every drill instructor and every recruiter. That was just kind of like my experience. But to move forward, by the time I had made my way off to a squadron, my admin chief that I worked for as a corporal, he was a recruiter. And he came off of recruiting duty when he checked in. And as the dude was cool, he was chill, and he didn't know a fucking thing about admin, because even before recruiting duty, he'd been outside of the MOS. So he hadn't even been an admin since he was a corporal. And he came back to the fleet as a 13-year staff sergeant. So, and first of all, I'm thinking, like, how does this even happen? But with the skills that he learned from recruiting, like, what he did was, he seen that I was passionate about what I do, and he just like encouraged me and like empowered me and was like, hey, Corporal Jones, this is your office, brother. I don't want to have to deal with nothing. Like, you take lead, you take charge, you do these things. When you need my backup, you let me know. And straight up, that's kind of like how it went. But at that time, I thought leadership was who could scream the loudest, and that was going to be me. I was going to scream. I was going to get this stuff done because, my staff sergeant said the office was mine. And, at a younger rank, that's just kind of the way I thought that it worked. But moving forward, I get promoted to sergeant. He retires. I go out on recruiting duty, and I come back to the fleet, and I'm thinking, like, damn, I don't know how much of this job that I remember. All I could remember was that same staff sergeant telling me, like, he leaned on me. He needed me. Like, he never said how much he needed me, but he let me run the office, and he sat back and he watched me. And if he had questions, he was willing to ask me, a younger Marine, those questions. And he respected my answers, right? Because I'm not trying to put myself on a pedestal or anything like that, but that's the type of Marine that I was you could give me an order and expect it to be accomplished at least to the best of my ability. It might have been wrong, but it was the best product that I could have given to you. So when I came back to the fleet, I was lucky enough to have a motivated sergeant that she wasn't a great female. She wasn't a great PTer. She wasn't like overly motivated, nothing like that. But she knew her job. She knew how she wanted the office ran, and I let her know, "Hey, I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna lean on you. I need you. I'm rusty." And the worst thing about being an admin is a lot of what we do is Googleable. You know what I mean? So it's like somebody will just come into the office with some fresh facts from Google and, try to challenge anything that you can say. So it's not that I forgot the entire job, but it was that factually, I needed to catch up. And I kind of sat back and I watched her. There'd be like staff meetings where typically it's all officers, the CO, XO, and the staff in COIC. And so I'm going into these meetings, and I'm bringing my sergeant right there along with me, and they're asking me why is she here, and I'm telling them because she's been the one running the office. I didn't have a turnover with a previous admin chief or anything. Like, she'd been running the show for 2 months, and I was blessed in that fashion. She ended up getting out of the Marine Corps, but she was one hell of a Marine, in my opinion, and that eased my transition for sure.
I would like to add to that. So, I mean, that is a perfect example. I didn't know coming back to the MOS, right? There's a lot of
Uh-huh.
things that changes, a lot of systems that were implemented. And so I needed to take the hat off. The hat stays at Paris Island. I can't bring it with me. And one thing I learned for sure is that you want your Marines to work for you. So
Yep.
how do you do that? Well, you have to be humble. And this is coming from a staff sergeant, right?
Yes.
You don't hide behind rank.
Yep.
Most of them that don't really learn their job or relearn their job, they just end up being drill instructors in the fleet. Like they're just being assholes, screaming at you because they don't know the answer and they're stressed out. So you got to be really humble. I humble myself to a lance corporal's level, and I said,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I told my platoon, hey, I don't know my job. I need you to teach me what's been implemented, what's the SOPs, what's the turnover binders, all of that crap. Like, I need it. And if I'm
Yes.
speaking out of context, I need you to correct me tactfully. Uh, but that's how it went. I took my platoon and uh, I learned, right. And there's some leadership tools that you take away from the island, right there. When you become a
Yeah.
drone starter, you think that these leadership tools you're not gonna use in the fleet. Yes, you are.
Being humble, having a little bit of humility, that will take you so far. Because I've also been in the experience where the that recruiter that I had as an admin staff in COIC, before I became a recruiter, when he retired, I had a staff in COIC, a staff sergeant that became my boss, my admin chief, and she was not a drill instructor, but she had gone to drill instructor school twice and failed. I'll just put it like that. And I always crack jokes at her too. I'm like, how you failed drill instructor school? You can't pass screaming at a tree. but but the issue was before she hadn't been to an S1, and prior to her attempts at drill instructor school, she was like working at some headquarters where all she really did was type reporting endorsements. Hey, this Marine checked in, send. And so like she got complacent doing that. And I'm not trying to sit here and take away from what she did or anything like that, but what I will say is, like, from my experience, is instead of being humble and asking me like, hey, you've been here for years, at this point, how does this go typically? Or do you have any knowledge on this? Instead, she would try to quiz me, come up and try to quiz me like on, oh, if I were to give you blah, 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 what would you do? And I'm like, well, shit, I would answer it however I would answer it. But I'm like, do you have a real question here? Or are you just trying to give me a pop quiz? Because, I got other things that I could be working on. That's what I'm thinking as a corporal. But I remember specifically, I hated that. Like, if if you want to have a discussion with me about how to do something, trust me when I say I'm grown enough to be able to, show you and not judge you. You trying to quiz me and ask me 10 different things so you can get one answer, that's going to have me judge you. I will judge you based off of that because I don't appreciate it. Like, if you need assistance somewhere, let me know that. Don't sit here and try to, give me 21 questions and I guess that's just the way I felt. And I will say this, she's not necessarily wrong by doing that. Like, she's well within her rights to ask one of her Marines 21 questions. The issue is that her Marines knew that she didn't know the answers. So towards your Marines, you lose faith when you do something like that. When you're humble and you ask your Marines, hey, have you seen this? Have you experienced this? And if so, what were the results, or how did you, accomplish the mission in that sense? At that point, your Marines feel appreciated because you're taking your time to see how they have experienced things, because they're the ones that have been there doing it. We know you don't know anything. Like, it's not a hidden fact. If you haven't done something for 3 years, you might know a little bit about it, but you've probably forgotten more. And so I had gone through both of those experiences where I've had an admin chief who leaned on me because he didn't know things, and an admin chief that questioned me because she didn't know something. And it honestly, I'll be upfront with you. Once I had caught on to the fact that this is the way that she handled business, I just told her I don't know. No, you're not gonna affect me. You're not gonna affect me if I tell you I don't know. Hey, so the staff sergeant comes at me. Hey, Corporal Jones, blah 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 blah. Staff sergeant, I don't know. XO walks into the office and asks her the exact question she asked me. She says, I don't know, sir. Sir, actually, I got the answer right here. So, and that's what it kind of turns into, where you could be one joined office, you turn into something where it's like, bro, like, instead of your Marines having some respect for you because of your humility, like you mentioned, they turn into resenting you because they feel like all you want to do is sit there and question them and quiz them, when your younger Marines are not dumb. They're grown men and women. They know you don't know something. Just have some humility and move forward. That's all they're looking for.
So I did, I was humble enough to ask the questions. I told them transparency and communication is the best to gain trust within your platoon. So I told them, hey, I don't know how to work GCSS. I don't know how to work this system. Can you teach me how to do this? Can you teach me how to do this? And they were willing to do it. But it did get to a point, because you got your go-getters, right?
Yeah.
You got your top-notch Marines, your meritorious walkers, right? And then you got your just passing by, right?
Yep.
It did get to a point where I found myself exploiting those Marines that were like top notch, because I was like, well, I'm gonna rely on you the most, and then the ones
Hmm.
that don't, I'm gonna delegate them to do smaller tasks. Um, so it did create a little bit of like, an environment where like the one that was meritorious like material was
Yep.
getting burned out. And he was like,
Yep.
Stats on, like, can you please task out? But I'm like, man, I would, but you're the best. Like, I got you for a reason. You're my
Yep.
right hand man. You're
Yep.
my sergeant. You're my corporal. Like, I need you to teach me. And it does they start getting worn out, and they start leaning towards, you know what, like, I am meritorious material, I am, a water walker, but this ain't it, chief. And they eventually say, you know what, I'm gonna get out. I'm gonna
Yeah.
get out because I'm like, man, I'm sorry, you know what, I'm gonna start delegating more towards other people. And they start gaining that uh that fire, igniting that fire back, because you burned the fire with so much so many tasks.
Yes.
um I don't know if that ever happened to you, where maybe you were in that position where, like, oh, you got your Marines and you were tasking the best all the time, and then the other one you were like, hey, do this, push this paper or whatever, whatever the
Yeah.
hell. To you, like, when you got
Yeah.
overly used as a chief because you knew everything, and they were like, yeah, 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 yeah. And they burnt you out, and you were like, man,
Yeah.
I'm gonna head out the door. This ain't it. I ain't getting too much. I'm not getting paid this more because you're tasking me out. I'm getting
Yep.
paid the same as the other guy that's doing this, the less collateral duties, less freaking working parties, less this. He's just skimming by, and I'm getting paid the same. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean you bring up a great point. Yes, I've definitely been through similar situations to that, both as a leader, also as a junior Marine, and it is definitely tasking. It's definitely asking a lot, and you can only tell your go getter that you're my go getter so many times, before they're just completely burned out, like and this almost brings up a whole nother topic, but it depends on the MOS because of the way, in my day, pros and cons marks work, and then it transitioned into JPEG
Step
markings,
guys.
um, where it's like it just depends on the score of the MOS, right? So it's like you can have a Lance Corporal that is your go getter doing all these right things, and then you see turd over here from a different section, doing a different job that everybody knows is a turd, and they just get promoted to corporal because their score for their job is so low.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I don't have the answer on how to fix that. I don't. But what I can say is that can be detrimental to somebody who is the go-getter, from a different job. I'm working my ass off over here. And you're telling me this person that only passed a PFT because they got a hookup and doesn't know shit about their job just got promoted to corporal, and they can tell me what to do? Nah, that can definitely be hard. So how I kind of handled the situation is I tried to build my work section like a family, and maybe this works for me because working in the S1, I had a small work section, right? I don't have a whole platoon or anything like that. I got a handful of Marines over there, and they were able to hear from me, from my mouth, and they could see with their own eyes that I would do what I said. But if you are meritorious material, you will be on a meritorious board. Simple as that. If somebody doesn't agree, that is a conversation that I'm going to have, but the CO will see your package. That's the way I was. And again, I'm admin, so I understood um, Marine Corps orders and MAR admins and all of that stuff, maybe to a higher extent than some other staff NCOs. So I was able to kind of leverage that because I understood that process. Nobody was going to tell me no if I want to nominate one of my Marines to become a meritorious corporal or a meritorious sergeant. That's the way I felt. The only person who was going to tell me no was the senior member of the board. That's the way I felt, right? Or if the CO obviously not recommended it. But also being admin, I can say if the package made it to the CO's desk, the CO was not going to not recommend it because it's going to go through the sergeant major and all of that stuff. And I was willing to go to bat with the sergeant major and the first sergeants or whomever. But to get back into it, I let my Marines know, hey, yeah, I'm going to lean on you. You might get tired of this, but I'm also telling you, your promotion is in your hands. Because if you tell me that you want to be a meritorious corporal or a meritorious sergeant, I'm going to treat you as such. If you say you don't, that's fine. I will treat you just as the average Marine that you want to be. But if you want to be above, trust me, I know what those standards take. Been there, done that. I will push you as such, and I will be the first one in your corner pushing that stuff up to make sure it gets approved and you can compete against the best in the squadron. And that's the way that I felt. And honestly, I had Marines that loved it. They loved it. And I had Marines that were straight up like, nah, I don't want that. I don't want that at all. But I was able to, because I had the smaller work section, whether they wanted to be that meritorious Marine or they wanted to be the very average Marine that they were, I was still able to get the production that I needed out of them because of the way that the office just kind of operated. One thing that I will say also on that is that even the meritorious Marines that I had under my charge, they would oftentimes get tired of some of the stuff that they were doing. Like, yeah, I'm so good in this, but I don't know anything about that yet. And, I would have to, go at that point, have to go through the explanation stage of kind of telling them like, I get it. You don't know everything in the office yet. I can't switch it up for this reason or for that reason at this moment. What you're doing is too important. I can't rely at this moment on the average Marine because you're performing above average. And that can also be frustrating. Like the Marine wants to move forward and have a well-versed, a notion of how the whole office or work section operates. But what you're doing is too important. I can't move you from that. And so that's a whole nother conversation that you need to have. But the way that I looked at it in my office, the most important things were legal, defense travel system, and the government travel charge card. If one of those things goes array, the CO is coming into my office. I don't like the CO coming into my office. So so it's like you might think that you know everything about this office, but I can also tell you, or you might think that you only know these three things about this office, but I can also tell you from my experience, if you only know those three things, the rest is very teachable and you will strive anywhere else you go. There's a reason you're in the billet that I have you in, and I'm going to try to cross train you and all of those things. But essentially, like, we have a daily mission, we have an overall mission, and my goal here is to meet both of those.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna add into so you have your average Marine and your meritorious material water walker. And you said, how do we stop the promotion? Because the shipback still gets promoted in the same aspect as the Marine that's doing everything, and they get both get paid the same, or sometimes the shipback might get promoted before the water walker. It's all depending on leadership. It's all depending on your staff and COs. They have to actually non-rect this Marine. Some of
Yeah.
them are just too lazy or don't have enough information and don't want to humble themselves to ask the questions. Hey,
Yep.
how do I get this Marine non-rect? Because I don't want him to be a corporal or a sergeant. It's all doing the legwork, and some staff and COs don't want to do that, and it's
Yes.
unfortunate because that's what leads to frustration on the Marine that's like doing everything, and then the shitbag that doesn't do as much, or the average Marine that's not doing as much gets promoted
Yeah.
at the same time, or even before that water walker. So it's again it's as simple as down wrecking. That's it. It's not
Yes.
rocket science. We're not asking you to slay a dragon, find some goal at the end of the rainbow. Like it's simple. It's just do the paperwork and submit him to through the first round in CO. Right. That's it.
Hmm.
That's it. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is there was this topic. One of the videos that I saw from, do you mind if I mention Barry
Go
Bull
ahead.
and
Go
Alberto
ahead.
Ramos? They have their own podcast, and they said they brought up a good conversation. Should every Marine in the unit get awarded?
Fuck no. That's that's my opinion, and it's fuck no. But let me clarify on that. Marines that should be awarded. Like, so don't let me misconstrue that. Should every Marine be awarded? No. But the Marines that should be awarded, it is up to that leadership to make sure that they're getting awarded. I'm very passionate about this topic, actually. It's affected me personally, but also I manage the awards program as an admin chief. And I'm watching these people submit awards late. Submit awards late, not submit them at all, come in after the fact that the Marine has went on terminal leave or whatever. Look, here's how it needs to go. If you have a Marine that is performing, they're performing well, and you think you even have an inkling of the thought that they should receive an award, type the award and submit it to the awards board. That's how it should go. Let them vote. You type out the summary of action. The issue is here, it takes time. It
Yeah,
takes time to type out that summary of action, and officers don't want to do it. I come from the air wing side, and the admin officers, the maintenance officers, the ops officers, they all have a primary job, which is them being a pilot, and that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice and skill to become what they need to become. But they also have a ground side job, and that's to lead those enlisted Marines in whatever they've been assigned to. You cannot, as a leader, forget about those enlisted Marines. You can't. And if you have an officer that is the staff NCOIC should check the officer, one, or two, prepare the award for the Marine. It's really as simple as that. Should every Marine receive an award? Hell no. Not every Marine is deserving of one. Just because you're getting out, you think you get an end of tour award? No, that's not what the order says. But if the Marine is performing well, we can't forget to recognize those people. We cannot. And it happens too many times. And the issue, in my opinion, having been inspected on awards, it falls down on kind of like two things. And it's one, is the Marine ever being written up for the award? That's one. Why are you not giving out enough NAMs or comms or whatever? And two, it comes down to the CO holding the standard according to the order. If you're writing somebody up for a NAM, it needs to be to the CO by this time. If it's a comm, it needs to be to the Marine to the CO by this time. If the OIC doesn't get it to the CO in that time, and the CO upholds the standard, who gets hurt? It's the Marine that should be awarded. Just because the OIC didn't write it in time or the staff in COIC didn't check it in time, the Marine that's leaving is now leaving with a bad taste in their mouth because they've done all of these great things for the Marine Corps and they can't get recognized. I got a lot more opinions on it, but I'm gonna pass it to you and see what you have to say on the topic.
No, I mean, I don't know. His response on that podcast was yes. And I was about to do the Conor McGregor. Who the fuck is that guy? Because no, that's not how it goes. The doing your job is the standard. Like that's you come in, you do your
It's
job. Whether
expected.
you're motor T, yeah, that's what is expected. That's when they give you your initial counseling at your first unit or whatever second unit, and they say this is your task, your ability accomplishment or your ability responsibilities. They tell you whether you're motor T, whether you're freaking radio operator, whether you're supply, whether you're admin, whatever it is, you have a task of responsibilities that you need to accomplish. If you just do that task, why would I reward you for just doing a job?
Yep.
Why? No.
You know what I would give you? A letter of appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, a letter of appreciation, LOA, or a freaking meritorious mass. That's it. At best. If you're telling me that you made an impact on the unit, that you shifted, that you did all these amazing things, that you had an influence, that you were leading the platoon, that you were actually going above and beyond, that's when I say, you know what, that guy deserves recognition. It does. That's when you should reward the Marine. If you don't reward him, then you're a shitty leader. But that's my opinion on it. You should reward those who go above and beyond, not doing your best. Because like, think about it, right? You have your knucklehead Smokatelli showing up to work, putting his hands in his pockets, and then saying, I'm going to medical for 2 hours, and then coming back after chow, taking 2 more hours of chow, and then showing up and then worked like 4 hours, and all he did was sit on his desk and just type, some diaries.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah, let me just do this. And then you have my freaking meritorious water walker, freaking Corporal John. He's doing everything. He's like, oh, I'm going to take care of the Marines. I'm going to take care of the mission. I'm going to take care of my staff and CO. Like, he's going everywhere. And you're telling me that those two Marines are on the same level?
Yep.
Come on now. Let's be realistic. Let's be honest. No.
Yeah. Dude, you got to be realistic with this. You have to be realistic on this. And it's like it's like I've seen it too many times. Again, air wing, somebody picks up a piece of FOD off of the ground. Oh, hey, we need it. S1, you gotta type up this name. We need to award it by this Friday. Blah 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 blah. For picking up a piece of FOD, a stone like a pebble, that big. And I get it. It could have big impacts. But trust me when I say every single fucking morning there's a FOD walk. There's a walk. It happens. People pick up FOD every single day. But this person deserves an award. Okay. Some people would say that was that person's job to identify the FOD, right? And grab it, whatever. Okay, cool. But then you have somebody in an MOS, somebody in a job that maybe isn't directly affected or isn't directly affecting the mission. Let's just say, like, again, air wing thing. What this person does doesn't affect that pilot taking off. Does something amazing in their field of what they can control. No recognition because it doesn't affect the flights. And it's like, why are we awarding this person for picking up a piece of a stone off the ground? But this person has done all of these things exceedingly well and can't get recognition. That it blows my mind. It truly blows my mind. And
Yeah.
I am a firm believer. I am a firm believer. Just because you do your job, that does not mean you deserve a fucking award. Hell no. If you do something well, exceptionally well, you at times should be rewarded. But bro, the chest candy, no offense, this is not the Air Force. Just because you graduate boot camp, you don't get a ribbon on your chest. That's just the way I feel on it, dude.
Yeah. Coming back from the SDA, just to wrap it all up, right? Coming back from SDA was a hard adjustment. At first, my first platoon, before I became company guns, I think in some aspect they might have seen me as toxic, and we have toxic leadership amongst the Marine Corps in its entirety, right?
Mhm.
I I've had toxic leadership. I've experienced toxic leadership. I know what it is. Some people
Mhm.
might think, yeah, this toxic leadership is different for everybody. This is subject to change. Uh, it might be for one person. Oh, he's telling me to, come back to work after chow, like early. You know, another person might be like toxic leadership is somebody that holds you extremely accountable at all times, and that's not the case at all. I mean, some people think that toxic leadership is holding the Marines accountable in the aspect of throwing NJPs, right? So,
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, you caught me drinking, and then you're gonna report it. You're toxic, right? But
Yeah.
reality is that's not true. That's not correct. I do want to talk about the toxic leadership in the platoon, and it can be at all levels because people think that, oh, toxic leadership, they think staff NCOs, first sergeants, they think gunnery sergeants. No, brother, you got your corporals that have an influence that can make or
Yes.
break the incoming brand new Marines. You have your sergeants that can be toxic. You have your lance corporals that can be toxic. Like, it's at all levels. It's not just above and
Yeah.
the E7 and above, like, or E6 and above. Like, it's at all levels. I don't know if you ever experienced toxic leadership or would like to have your take on it. Uh, but I don't know. Let
Yeah.
me know what you think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. As far as toxic leadership goes, you're right. It can happen at all levels. All levels. Everybody wants to say, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. I'm getting out of the military because of leadership. 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 I'll be the first one to tell you that I did not know how hard it is to be a leader, a real leader, not just the guy leaned back in the chair with your feet kicked up on the desk telling people, hey, no, you can't leave for lunch. No, you can't do this. Hey, go do this. That's not a leader. A leader is involved. They're ingrained in everything that you go to do, from accomplishing the mission to making sure that you're rewarded or awarded the way that you should be. When you're down and out on the weekend and you have nobody to talk to, the leaders hitting you up or responding to you if you reach out. Being a leader is hard. It's hard work. And sometimes people need to step up and realize maybe it wasn't my leader. Maybe I was being a fucking turd for the way I was acting. Maybe I wasn't doing this and that. And just because this went wrong today, that doesn't mean it was my leader's fault. A real leader is always going to take accountability for the work section. Don't mistake, what I'm saying. But a lot of times younger Marines are blaming the senior enlisted leaders, when really the younger Marine just needs to be fucking checked.
Yeah.
Simple as that. And I truly believe that. And the fact that I'm a veteran, I can sit here and I can honestly say I can think back on my times where I was a younger Marine and I was doing some of the dumbest shit you could imagine. I really was. I was just out there doing whatever it was, but I showed up on time. I worked hard when I was there, but then I would go out and I would just do something dumb. And when I would get checked for it, I'm like looking at my boss like, you're not gonna have my back on this? Why would he? Like, I was the one doing the dumb stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's like I can look back and I can acknowledge that. And I can also say that I learned this a lot from recruiting duty because I was a sergeant in the fleet before I went to recruiting duty. And at those times, it was like simpler times. It was just like, hey, if you're not doing what you need to do, I'm just going to scream at you and you're going to get it done. And if you don't, then staff sergeant's going to deal with you. But then I go out there to recruiting duty. I get promoted to staff sergeant. I'm running an office and I've got Marines that are older than me. Coming to me with issues that I haven't even seen before, whether they were marriage issues or child issues or mental health issues and all of these things. And it's like, how much do you expect of me? Now, don't get me wrong. Somebody could be in that position and completely screw the pooch, right? Like if you came to me and said that, hey, staff sergeant, like, I'm having these issues, like I'm down and out, I've thought about self-harm or something, and I just tell you to get back to work, that's a leadership issue, right? But if I'm sitting here, I'm doing everything that I can think of because I haven't experienced those feelings that you're going through, and and by the time you decide to get out and whatever, after I've attempted to help you, maybe I didn't do it the way you needed it, but maybe your experience has helped me in the future, right? Like, it's not a lack of effort of trying to assist you as a leader. Sometimes it's just that leader has not been through that situation before, and that can be an unfortunate thing, where you ask for help and the person doesn't know how to help you. It's not always because they didn't want to help you, but maybe in their mind they did try to help you. It just wasn't exactly what you were looking for. So I think it could definitely go both ways. It, in my opinion, can be a touchy subject. In a lot of people's opinion, it can be like, no, the guys at the top of the hill are wrong. And the guys at the top of the hill are, just saying like, oh yeah, these guys are being, bitches or whatever. And yeah, I'm definitely in the middle. I put a lot of accountability on the leaders themselves, but I also put a lot of accountability on those that are looking to be led. What are you doing to help yourself? What are you doing? Are you just asking to be like this damsel in distress? Or, at the end of the day, Marines are taught to accomplish the mission, and we're trying to accomplish the mission. And a lot of leaders understand that it requires you to assist that mission. So I want to do everything that I can to make sure that you're good. But maybe you came with an issue that I need assistance with. So I'm outreaching this, that.
I think everybody has their own opinion on toxic leadership. So I'll share a little bit of mine. Right, going to drill field was culture shock because, I mean, people call themselves or people call you might use profanity at you. They might say
Mm-hmm.
you ain't your bitch ass isn't screaming like like that's
Yeah.
degrading to a man, right?
Yeah.
Or you're not gonna go inside the duty hut and drink water until you fucking do like 20 until you IT the entire platoon, right? So
Yeah.
you ain't gonna do that, right? Or you're not gonna eat, you're not gonna, whatever. uh in the aspect of the fleet, I feel like it could be again at all levels. You can have a corporal that
Uh-huh.
it's changing the dynamic of the shop because he's either uh he's messing up with the or hazing the freaking PFCs or the lance corporals, or he's sexually harassing them. So like that is toxic. That, if you have a
Hmm.
corporal under you or sergeant under you that is strictly a malicious person
Yeah.
that doesn't have the best interest for the Marines, it should be a sibling relationship. It should be
Yeah.
like, okay, well, you a corporal should be like the bigger brother, right? And your sergeant should be like the
Hmm.
the uncle type, right? And then you have your staff is your father figure, right? So when it comes to these things, it could be a change of dynamic in the shop. I think uh obviously the staff COIC is the one that controls the dynamic. He's the
Yeah.
one that hashes stuff out. But if you have a few bad apples that don't conform, or don't do what's necessary to take care of the Marines, then that's when the toxicity starts
Yeah.
getting out of hand. And I'll tell you a little bit of mine when I was in the drill for the biggest thing that uh, biggest experience that I had of toxic leadership, and I think I'm willing to talk about it because he's already out. I'm not going to
Yeah.
mention his name for legal purposes, but he's in E9, and I was in the support battalion at the time, and I was going through like I was separated already from this person,
Yeah.
but the person for some reason did not want to get divorced. She was not signing the papers, and I was trying to push her to sign the papers. She didn't want to, whatever. I get to support battalion because I was on the investigation for allegedly talking to or having unduly relationship with females. Whatever.
Yeah.
The E9 pulls me aside and says, and he starts breaking the numbers. How much are you getting paid? Hey, you're getting paid this much. I want you to send this much to your spouse or to your spouse right now because she's still married to you, right? And I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
That's highly
Like,
illegal.
I was like, what? You want me to send 14 $1,400 of my paycheck to this person that lives in Florida? And I'm like, where am I gonna how am I gonna support myself? So I'm working
Yeah.
and I'm sending money to the person and I'm still paying a house. I'm gonna end up in debt.
Yeah.
But the E9 at the time thought he was a lawyer and said, if you don't do this, I'm gonna hold you accountable. And the other thing was what he was trying to do, highly legal. Second thing is that if I didn't do those things, he was gonna push to NJP me. He was already pushing to NJP me for
Yeah.
allegedly doing stuff, right? But I'm telling the E9 how I feel.
Yep.
I'm in a dark place where I'm thinking about stuff that I haven't thought before, dark stuff,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
I'm financially exhausted, and I'm telling everybody, hear me out, hear my side of the story. Like I'm getting messed over. I'm losing housing, mind you. It wasn't off base, so it wasn't my property. It was on base,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
I'm losing my car. I'm paying for everything for this person, and you're telling me to pay more money on top of that. I'm gonna end up in debt, and I did. I did
Yeah.
end up in debt, and I'm still recovering from it. I'm still recovering to this day. But thankfully, another E9 took his place. For some reason, he got pushed away. I don't know if he got relief
Yeah.
or if it was his
Yeah. I
time to
wonder
go.
why.
Yeah, if it was his time to go, but another one just gave me, page 11 and said, "Hey, sign this," and it was good. Like I accepted it because he wasn't trying to. purposely make me send money to my significant other that I was gonna get divorced anyway,
Yeah.
or he wasn't trying to push this investigation for NJP or to be substantiated. It was bad, man. When I'm telling you it was
Yeah.
bad, I thought I wasn't gonna be here anymore. And that's toxic leadership to an
Yeah.
extreme. When you say
Yes.
toxic leadership, oh, my corporal, my sergeant only gave me 30 minutes for chow. That's not what?
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. Yep.
Or oh, my sergeant's making me PT during chow, possibly because you're fat or you can't
Yep.
pass the friggin' PFT. You tell me that if they're doing something illegal meaning if they're making you hold a can like this for no reason the entire day, then you tell me like that's toxic,
Yeah.
that's hazing. Or if they are trying to financially burden you, then that's toxic. I have another one. Uh, back in back in second reg, my old unit, I had this
Hmm.
corporal, my first unit as a PFC. I came in. The corporal was a piece of shit. He's out now.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm gonna say his name because he is Corporal Sykes. So yeah, he's a piece of shit because
Yeah.
I went in right, and this guy he was all over the place. Uh, he was he was stealing, cheating, and he got separated. Thankfully, he got demoted too. Um, I get a call one day, and I'm out with my wife, my kid, at the MCX looking at stuff, and he's like, "Hey, can you give me your card number?" And I'm like, "What?" "Oh yeah, I just need your card number to put it on because uh, I'm like trying to get at the airport and I need a co-signer." I'm like, Corporal, I can't give you my card number. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, but why not? Why not? You're my favorite. I'm like, because it's my money. Like, you're not gonna use my money. Oh no, I'm not gonna use your money. I just need your card number for this. And I'm like, all right, Corporal, give me a second. I hang up. I call my staff NCO, staff sergeant. Corporal Sykes is trying to get me to give me or give him my card number, my
Yeah.
debit card number. And he's like, why? I don't know, but he's like insisting, and I don't want to tell him no, but I don't want to tell him yes because he said he was trying to co-sign for a car
Yeah.
at the airport. Anyways, the
That's
staff sergeant rang them up.
wild.
Yes, so I've experienced toxic leadership.
Yeah.
That didn't mean, oh, because I've experienced toxic leadership, I'm gonna get out. Why is everybody and their mother saying, oh, I experienced toxic leadership, I'm gonna get out? Just
Yeah.
overcome adversity, man. Become resilient. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
but anyways, that corporal ended up for some reason, I think using his GTCC to rent out a vehicle from the airport to fly or to drive to Oklahoma. Mind you, on the way to Oklahoma, he got into a car accident. So he was UA in a car accident and in a hospital. After that,
Oh my
after he
gosh.
recovered and all of that, he got in a pretty bad car accident. After he recovered and all of that, he went back to the unit and got demoted. Thankfully, thankfully.
Yes.
Other thing is, I got meritorious promoted to corporal. So I was walking corporal when he was a walking lance corporal, and I was like,
Yep.
"How you doing, lance corporal?" Every time I walk in the door.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I experienced toxic leadership in all the levels, all the ranks. You have corporals that are toxic. You have sergeants that are toxic. It's not just the E6 and above. It's not just the
Yeah.
officers. It's at all levels, man. And it didn't make me go like, oh, you know what? Because of my toxic leadership, I'm gonna get out. No, guess where? What? And it ended up making me. I was like, you know what? Because somebody said, be the change. Be the
Yes.
change. So
Yep.
I got promoted. I did what I had to do, and I'm here at this level, and I'm trying to prevent toxic leadership from happening. Am I
Hell
able
yeah.
to control it? Yes, I am. If there's a toxic straight, I'm able to hash it out. Mind you, I can't control every single individual, but I
Of
can be a
course.
change. So yeah, that's my take on toxic leadership, man. Like, I get so mad whenever Marines, soldiers, sailors said, toxic leadership. I'm gonna get. No, man, like you shouldn't take it like that. Keep going,
Yep.
get promoted, be the change.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just say, like, when it comes to that that E9 trying to force you to make that payments or whatever to your current spouse, but you guys were legally separated, whatever. Always to the viewers, situations like this happen. They happen often, to be honest. Consult with a lawyer. A military lawyer. It doesn't cost you anything, because you better believe that if somebody is giving you an order like that, they should have consulted with a lawyer as well. That person did not, clearly, because that order cannot come from an E9. It cannot. That order can come from one person, and that is the
But it
CO.
did. But
Right.
it did.
So, yep.
Eh,
And then that needs to be a written thing. And that written thing would have came through somebody like me, an admin, right? CO's telling me, hey, here's the situation. This is what needs to happen. I type this up. I send it to the CO. The CO would send it to the JAG to make sure that what they are trying to do is legal and correct. If somebody is just saying it like that sergeant major, wrong. That should not happen. And if it is happening, they're wrong. Like, I could just tell you flat out. I would say, like, yeah, like, that person just needs to stay in their place. But typically you're not saying that to a sergeant major. That's pretty wild. Like, typically you would say that to maybe like a first sergeant or something less. But
I
man,
said E9. Hey, I said E9. I didn't say
yeah,
who it
yeah, hey,
was.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
still I'm
you said,
still, in the service. I can't say a
yep.
lot.
Yeah, these, what I'm saying is my own assumptions and my own only, right? So that part is what it is. But man, like, yeah, you bring up great points with the toxic leadership. It goes up the chain and it goes down the chain. I had not to that extent at all, but I remember being a corporal and in the air wing, and the sergeant major was a prior grunt. And no offense to the grunts out there at all, but typically grunts and air wingers are different. And this guy, like, came in, and he was like very blunt, very abrasive, however you want to say it. If a Marine was being NJP'd, which I would typically sit in on these NJPs to be the scribe, take notes, whatnot. Every single NJP, as the senior enlisted advisor, when the CO asks the sergeant major, what are your thoughts on this Marine? His only words ever: hammer him, sir. Hammer him, sir. Every single time, every NJP. And I asked him one day, I was like, Sergeant Major, like, why do you always say hammer him, sir? And he said, because I believe if you are standing in front of the man, if you're standing in front of the man, you did something to get there. So you're gonna get NJP'd. And like, that was just a one-on-one conversation, whatever. And he truly did believe that. But nonetheless, that same sergeant major, he'd always like walk into my office, and while I was a corporal, and I handled a lot of the defense travel system, DTS, whatever. So I'm always in the mix, typing away, trying to create these orders for these pilots last minute. Oh, we got to do a cross country, all this bullshit. And so it's like, I'm just focused, sitting there in my chair, typing on a computer. And so I'm not like looking up at the door, at that squadron. It was like actually a fairly big office, right? So I'm like looking down, boom. And the sergeant major would literally take his time to creep into the office, like tiptoe and shit. and like sneak up behind me and just like bam, smack the back of my neck as I'm like looking down. And
My
the
God.
the first time he does it, I'm like, oh, ha ha ha, the sergeant major hit me. That was kind of funny. And you know, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. And then he does it. He had did it a couple of times. And this one time he caught me on the wrong day where I was like, I was stressed through the roof about what I was trying to do, right? and hey, people can have their opinions about admin, but my opinion about admin is like it takes a lot of focus and like yeah, it takes it. You know, you can say admin are dumb or whatever. I get it. I've heard it all. But what I can say is that a lot of Marines would rather do physical labor than sit there and look at a screen all fucking day. That was literally me. I didn't even know I was going to be admin. I just ended up with that job. That's a whole nother story, right? So he caught me on the wrong day. Everything as far as DTS was going wrong, or I was getting hit, blindsided from this and that. And I'm sitting here going at it, typing on the computer, and he sneaks in and like, bam, tags me right on the back of my neck. And I'm like, boom, he hit me and I just dropped my head. And I was like, oh, Dom, don't lose it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And I'm just like, and then he starts antagonizing me. He was like, oh, what's the matter, Corporal Jones? Are you upset? And I'm just like, I just keep looking down. I didn't even respond. I didn't say I Sergeant Major or nothing. I'm just looking down. And he could tell it was a little bit awkward. So he says something to my staff sergeant. And then he leaves. And my staff sergeant, he's the same one I mentioned earlier, where I was like, yeah, he was the recruiter that kind of was like, yeah. And he was like, hey, man, you good, big dog? And I was like, fuck no. Like, I was like, I'm about to request mass on his ass. And I was like, fuck, like he hit me. And like, what am I supposed to do? Stand up and confront him? Like, no, like, and then I'm gonna get devil dogged and all that bullshit. And he tells me, he was like, hey, let me talk to him. And if the situation don't get squared out, then I'll support you in requesting mass. I was like, all right. Which, if you've seen my TikTok, I told a whole different story about requesting mass on my EXO. And that was as a staff sergeant. This story I'm telling is as a corporal. The EXO situation was the only time in my whole career I requested mass on somebody. But the staff sergeant goes and talks to my sergeant major, and my sergeant major calls me into the office and apologizes to me, whatever. But anyways, to make a long story short, like, that's the type of guy he was, right? And he had no respect for admin. Like, he would just like be in his office down the hallway, and he'd be like, admin, and expect one of us to run down there. And then he would ask us something crazy like spell pterodactyl.
What the fuck?
I don't know, Sergeant Major. I would probably just look that up on Google, But he would do something like that. And then when he was about to leave, our replacement, because this is in Beaufort, Marine Corps Air Station, Beaufort, South Carolina, his replacement was coming from the depot. A depot sergeant major who was also his prior MOS was admin, and he was just sitting there like, oh, you guys are fucked. Like, you think you had it bad with me? Wait until this guy gets here. And because he's coming from the depot, he's admin, so he knows all this stuff. This was the best sergeant major I ever had, like, hands down. Like, I did something wrong. I was in the wrong, right, on Liberty. I did something, whatever. And this sergeant major calls me into the office. I'm standing in front of him at parade rest. And he just straight up asked me, like, how did we get to this situation? Like, tell me your side of the story. He wanted to know how I got there. Whereas the other sergeant major was just like, burn him, sir.
Hammer him.
Yeah, hammer him, sir. And I was like so caught off guard because in my head I was like, I'm fucked. My rank is gone. You know, I'm gonna be restricted to the barracks, this, that. And this guy just asked me, like, how did we even get to this situation? He let me explain myself exactly how it went. And I was fine. I didn't get a page 11 or anything. Like, he heard me out, he understood. And that, I mean, I've got multiple examples of like toxic leadership, but that, I don't know why that's the one that came to my mind, because, you know, that is at the top of like the totem pole, in the sense of like just being a young Marine and seeing your senior enlisted from two completely different ends of the spectrum. Now, as far as the grunt and the admin thing, that might be a coincidence. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that grunt sergeant major, he was just way different. Like, he thought it was cool to put his hands on me. He thought it was cool to NJP Marines. And then this guy who came from the fucking Marine Corps Recruit Depot, who happened to also be admin, was willing to hear his younger Marines out as the senior enlisted advisor and understand the situation before he judged what happened. And I thought that was really cool. I didn't have the closest relationship with that sergeant major because even though I was admin, I was just a corporal. But looking back at my time in service, that was one hell of a sergeant major. So that's my 2 cents.
So it sounds like maturity came into play in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be honest. Not every E9 is mature. There's some out there that are immature and they lack ethics and morals. We're not gonna get into that. That's a whole nother topic. But while we're in the topic of NJPs, right? This came to my mind. How do you feel about whenever your Marine gets NJP? How do you deal with that? Do you maybe like, oh, I'm gonna push him to the ground and dig a grave for him, or do you feel like it should be handled differently?
Yeah. My thought on this is, I would say it's my opinion, but I also firmly believe that it's a fact, and it's not my job as a staff sergeant to burn that Marine any further than he's been held accountable by the CO. An NJP is just that. It's a non-judicial punishment, and that punishment comes from the commanding officer. Whatever that commanding officer has instilled upon that Marine, whether it's a loss of rank, restriction to the barracks, whatever, that punishment comes from the CO. So by the time that Marine walks out of the CO's office, he or she is probably at their lowest of their military career. You know, if that's the first time they've been NJP'd, whatever. Why would I waste my time trying to bury that Marine even further? It makes no sense, because that's not my place, first and foremost. The CO punished him. That's not my responsibility to do. Instead, I believe that we should use maybe a word that we use at the beginning of this podcast, and it's called empathize. Empathy with the Marine. Understand, because we as staff NCOs, we've probably been at a point similar to that, where we felt we lost something, or we felt we were close to losing something, and we know how that feels. If you just get shit on by your staff sergeant, your staff NCO, your peers, your NCOs, whatever, why would that Marine ever bounce back? Why would they? That's a real question. Why would they bounce back? If you empathize with that Marine, you understand them, and you help rebuild them into what we know that they could be as a Marine, you could potentially turn that Marine from a turd that got NJP'd into a meritorious whatever the next rank is. That's a real thing. I've for real seen that. But people so often choose, oh, you got NJP'd. You're a piece of shit for that. And I'm going to continue to treat you like a piece of shit. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that at all. That's not my spot. My spot is to have a work section full of Marines that would choose the right path of that would lead them to the opposite of getting NJP'd, right? Occasionally it happens, and that fucking it sucks, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a grown man as a staff sergeant, just as that lance corporal is a grown man. And grown men and grown women make their own decisions. And we all have to learn from our decisions. Um, so, but we all have to learn from our decisions. But to sit there and get belittled and ridiculed constantly for days, weeks, and months after we've already been punished by the CO, I truly, fully, wholeheartedly believe if you're a leader and you're doing that, you are wrong. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely takes some work from both ends, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if I had a Marine that was NJP'd, I'm not gonna scream at him. Uh, I'm not gonna belittle him, and it's not because the Marine Corps is getting soft. Because I can already see
Right. Yes.
people in the comments, Marine
Yeah.
Corps is getting soft. No, 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 no. Like think
Mm-mm.
about it. He's already down. He lost rank. He lost pay. He got or he got a freaking restriction. He probably is gonna lose some benefits if he's gonna
Yep.
get whatever discharge under whatever discharge he's gonna lose. So my job as a staff SEO is to bring that Marine back and say, you know what, like, hey man, it's not the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
You can come back from this, even
Yep.
if it is something as little as popping on the piss test, right? I think maybe, right, maybe you can come back from this, but it's gonna be very hard.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you're gonna get separated. But at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do is keep his character up, keep his
Mm-hmm.
morale up, because and don't exclude him from everything. Like if you're gonna take the Marines somewhere or for an event, oh, don't put him on the side and say, "No, you're a piece of shit." No, no, no. Keep him
Mm-mm.
in the brotherhood. Keep him together. I think a lot of people lack that sense of maturity and saying like, he made a mistake, but he can come back from this. Uh,
Yeah.
his job his job is to make sure that he's doing whatever from that moment forward. He's doing whatever he can to bounce back.
Yep.
And I'm not gonna sit here and be a hypocrite. Like if he comes late to PT, I'm gonna say, "Hey, why the fuck did you come late from to PT?"
Of
Or
course.
I'm gonna hem him up. But at the end of the day, I'm not gonna revert back to the old punishment. I'm not gonna say because you were a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
Nah, nah. I'm gonna say uh you were late to PT because you overslept, or because you weren't responsible enough to wake up on time,
Mm-hmm.
or like if he didn't shave his face and he starts going down the path, because he can eventually cause a spiral moment where he becomes a setback.
Yep.
So if you put him down all the time, guess what he's gonna be? He's gonna be a salty ass private lance
Yep.
corporal that hates the Marine Corps,
Yep.
uh, that's gonna blame everybody but not take accountability on himself. So I think me as a staff SEO, my job is to keep him in line, saying like, hey, even though you're gonna get NJP'd or you got NJP'd or you're gonna end up getting separated, I need you to do these things. Whether it's setting you up for success or like, hey, I need you to like give me a plan so when you get out, like you have something to hold you
Mm-hmm.
with, right? Or like, oh, you got NJP'd, all right. What was it for? What was it for this? Okay, well, we can still come back from this. Like, let's go and work. Show me your work
Yeah.
ethic. Show me your character. What type of individual you are, and maybe I can consider for a recommendation to promotion, or maybe I can just help you out get your JPEG scores so that
Yeah.
you can make the cut again. You get promoted again. But I seen it. I seen it happen. I seen Marines that got demoted to Lance Corporal and they came back to Corporal. I seen Marines
Mm-hmm.
that didn't do it because they were salty about the situation, because they felt like they got caught, right? They got
Yeah.
caught, and that's what ultimately led them to say,
Yep.
"Oh, because I'm sorry because I got caught. I'm not sorry because I did what I did."
Yeah.
It's the same thing with everything in the in life, right? You get
Yep.
caught for something you weren't supposed to do, you're gonna be embarrassed.
Yeah, yeah, I would say to caveat off of that, bro, like I agree so much with everything that you just said. But I just want to say to the viewers that there is absolutely nothing cool about being a shitbag. There's nothing cool about that. As a grown man or a grown woman, I don't care if you were 28 or 17, you made the decision to join. You made the decision to reenlist. You should uphold your contract, your oath that you've sworn to do the job to the best of your ability, right? Do we make mistakes? Of course we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Every A lot of people get held accountable for those mistakes. NJPs happen. They happen. But to be just become a shitbag because you got held accountable for your actions, no, dude, that's not cool. It's not cool. It's not cool to just be like, I'm gonna let my hair get however I want my hair. I'm gonna show up late because I want to show up late. What do I got to lose? Well, I can tell you for a fact that you can get NJP'd more than once. You can get NJP'd more than twice. You could even go to the brig. You know, it can get worse, right? But why even go down that rabbit hole, man? Like, bounce back as the grown person you were when you signed that contract. You decided to do it. And I'll even give you a quick story on this. So, corporal, sergeant time frame, but we had just got a corporal from Japan. Um, his name is also Jones, so it was like, I was a rank higher than him, whatever it was. I think I was a sergeant. But anyways, he was Corporal Jones. He checked in from Japan, and he did something wrong and got NJP'd for it and got reduced. He was also, when before he got reduced, he was a select grade sergeant. So he was about to get promoted to sergeant, still a corporal, did something wrong, got NJP'd to lance corporal. And then right after that, he broke restriction or something like that. Boom, NJP'd him again, PFC. And so during that second NJP, I was scribing for it. So I'm in there, I'm hearing it all, I'm witnessing it all, I'm taking notes, whatever. And I've been in multiple NJPs. And a lot of times, the Marines standing at the position of attention and they're like trembling, whether it's from nerves or anxiety or anticipation or just standing at the position in general. A lot of times they're in there shaking. And this dude, like, he literally was in there and he stood tall, not shaking, nothing. And getting NJP'd for the second time. So you could say that he was just used to it at this point, right? The CO asks him, why did you do this? Why? And having sat in on all these NJPs, you hear all the excuses in the world that led them to getting to where they are, right? And this Marine just straight up took ownership. I did that. And I apologize, sir. I dishonored you. I dishonored the Marine Corps. I dishonored the rank that I wear. Mind you, the rank he was wearing was fresh because he just got reduced, And he was like, I don't have an excuse for that, and I apologize. This was the only NJP I had been in that I heard a Marine apologize. Like, I did that, and I'm sorry, sir. Like, most of the times it's just them avoiding, oh, well, I was
Yeah.
manipulated or, whatever. I did that, and I'm sorry, sir. Still got reduced, and he walked out of there. And, having, I was like in my first enlistment, or I had maybe just re-enlisted. I was young. And after that NJP was over, like, I grabbed him and I told him, I was like, hey, brother, like, I just want to let you know that was the most respectful thing I have ever seen in an NJP. I've seen a lot of them at this point. And if you need anything from me, like, let me know. and I'll be happy to assist you, you know, like, and I also want to say, you know, the job's not done. The job's not done. Like, you still have time on your contract, whether you want to strive for the promotion or you just want to leave honorably. The choice at this point is yours. Like, don't lose that same that same persona you had when you stood in front of the CO, you know, and that was literally like in my first enlistment, and I remember that to this day. And I can just think, like, I had so much respect for that. Because I had never seen it before, and in fact, I hadn't seen it after. And I don't know how many NJPs I had set in, you know, at this point, but man, the dude just took ownership, and I couldn't believe it. You know, people own their stuff, but then to apologize for their own actions, get reduced again fast. Like, I mean, I'm talking like this was like within 2 months, the dude thought he was about to be a sergeant, and next thing you know, he had been dropped to a lance corporal and then dropped again to a PFC. And I'm just like, dude, keep your head up. Keep your head up, man. Like, this is not the end of the road for you, brother. And I can tell that right now. I think that it's important to understand that everything is not the leadership's fault. Everything is not the Marines' fault. We need to be humble. We need to have empathy. We need to have all those things, and we still need to hold the standard. Well, you know, the standard is also very important. Just because you're humble and you have empathy does not mean that you're soft. No. Respect is one of the first things that we learned as kids. You know what I mean? So I don't know, that those are some of my feelings on the topic, I guess I would say. That's going to wrap this episode up. I appreciate you, Josh. You can find him at battle_buddy_banter on most any social media platform. I'm going to tag them all down below in the description. Thanks for coming on, Josh. Do you have anything you want to say to the people before we end the episode?
Oh, I mean, I think it was a good episode. I think you can gain a lot of information, whether you're trying to join, whether you just came back or are going to an SDA, or whether you just want to gain more information overall in the Marine Corps. A great dude, Java Bean 13. He's also on TikTok.
Hey, I appreciate it, Josh. I appreciate it. Like I said, we're going to tag all his info down below. Hey, drop comments down below on what topics you guys want to see us discuss, because we're open books over here. Like, we are striving to give you the information up front and completely unbiased, the way that we see it. And you can't find that many places. All right, so make sure you got the notification bell turned on. You're subscribed. Like the video if you like the video. Drop the comments down below. Until next time on the After Action Podcast.